I was sitting in my mother's hospital room, staring blankly at the heart monitor's steady beeps, when my phone vibrated. It was Logan. Logan, hey, figured I'd just text, seems easier. I'm leaving. Don't freak out. It's just not working, you know? Moving in with Cassie. You probably figured it out already. No hard feelings. Just be cool about it, okay? I read it 3 times. And then a 4th. My breath caught in my throat, and for a second I thought I might actually throw up. Emma. My mother's voice was weak, barely a whisper. She'd been in and out of consciousness all afternoon, but her eyes fluttered open just long enough to see me clutching my phone like it had personally attacked me. Everything's fine, Mom, I said automatically, forcing a smile. She was sick enough already. She didn't need to know that my husband of 3 years had just decided to end our marriage via text message. I couldn't even process the emotions hitting me all at once. Shock, rage, hurt, and some kind of twisted relief I didn't have the energy to analyze. But mostly there was anger. Not just because he was a coward who didn't even have the decency to leave a note. No, that would have been too much effort for Logan. But because I had spent the last 2 years carrying our marriage on my back while he, apparently, had been carrying Cassie, the work friend. The one who always happened to be texting him at midnight. The one who had a weird habit of tagging him in gym selfies with captions like grind time. Like they were some kind of power couple. The one who, now that I thought about it, had once complimented my diamond ring a little too intensely. The ring.my stomach clenched. My father's ring that I shoved my phone in my bag and gripped the edge of the hospital chair. I had a sick sinking feeling that Logan hadn't just taken off. He had taken something far more valuable with him, and if I was right, if that ring was gone, then Logan was about to learn the hard way that he had seriously underestimated me to be why the time I got home from the hospital, it was already dark. I pushed open the door to my apartment, the silence swallowing me whole. The place felt different at a first glance. Everything looked the same. The couch still had my mother's blanket draped over it. My half-finished cup of coffee from this morning sat on the counter, cold and forgotten. But the air was off, like the walls themselves knew something was missing. And then I saw it. The small wooden ring box on my dresser, where I always kept it, was open. The diamond ring inside looked the same at first, but the moment I picked it up, my fingers went ice cold. This wasn't my father's ring. The weight was wrong. The diamond, a deep, flawless stone my father had picked out himself, was now a cheap, lifeless rock. The band was dull, its engraving slightly off. Logan hadn't just stolen from me. He had left me with a fake that. I stood there, breathing hard, the realization crashing into me like a freight train. That bastard that. I scrambled for my phone, my hands shaking as I opened my alerts. Months ago, I had Logan's ring-sized ego to thank for installing tracking chips in all our valuables. His watches, his collector's edition sneakers, and of course my father's ring. He had scoffed at me when I suggested it, laughing like I was paranoid. No one's gonna steal from us, Em. But hey, if it makes you feel better. I bet he wasn't laughing now. The app loaded, and my heart nearly stopped when I saw the last recorded location. Horizon Pawn Shop, 3.1 miles away. My breath came out in sharp, shallow bursts. He had pawned it. Today. While I was sitting in my mother's hospital room worrying about her, he had been standing in some dingy pawn shop, trading my most cherished possession for what? A weekend getaway with Cassie. A shaky laugh bubbled up in my throat, but it wasn't amusement. It was rage. Logan didn't just leave me. He didn't just cheat. He stole from me. And he was about to pay for it. That I barely felt my fingers moving as I dialed the number for Horizon Pawn Shop. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Horizon Pawn, this is Joe. I swallowed back the pure venom sitting on my tongue. Hi, Joe. I think my husband sold you a ring today, a diamond ring. Platinum band, engraved initials inside. There was a pause. You, Emma. The breath whooshed out of me. Yes. Another pause. Longer this time. Then Joe sighed. Yeah, he was in here around noon. Looked real proud of himself, too. Of course he did. Logan could sell his own mother's jewelry and still act like he was pulling off the con of the century. Joe continued, Look, I don't normally do this, but something about the guy rubbed me the wrong way. He kept checking his phone like he was waiting for a high score in a game. Sold me the ring for quick cash. But what? I gripped the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. But I ran the serial number through our system, Standard procedure for high-value items. That ring has a tracking chip. I figured you'd be calling. I let out a sharp, shaky breath. Is it still there? Nah. He must have realized his mistake, 'cause he came back an hour later demanding it back. My stomach lurched. And you gave it to him? Joe scoffed. Lady, I don't do charity. He had to buy it back with a 30% markup. And get this, he paid in cash. Cash? Logan never had cash. He treated his debit card like a magic wand that erased all consequences. My eyes flicked back to my phone, pulling up my shared bank account with him, an account I had ignored most of the day because, well, I thought I had bigger problems. But now, looking at the balance, the problem had tripled, because it was empty, not just low, not just overdrawn. Wiped out. I clutched my stomach as if someone had physically punched me. He drained it. Every dollar. Every cent. The emergency savings. Everything. And if he had enough to buy the ring back in cash, that meant he had stashed the money somewhere else. Somewhere I couldn't touch. Joe's voice cut into my spiraling thoughts. I reported the sale to the cops just in case. If you file a police report, they'll already have the paperwork. Shouldn't be too hard to track him down. I should have said thank you. I should have felt relief. Instead, something cold settled in my chest. Logan didn't just cheat. He didn't just leave. He didn't just steal. He planned this. And if he thought I was just going to sit back and cry about it, he had no idea who he was dealing with. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch, staring at my laptop screen, coffee gone cold beside me, as I unraveled Logan's little scheme piece by piece. He had emptied our bank account, but the real money, the pawn shop cash, the offshore transfers, was stashed somewhere else. And I was going to find it. The first clue came from his social media. Logan wasn't exactly subtle. He treated his Instagram like a shrine to himself. Every post carefully crafted to make him look like some hustle king. I scrolled through his stories expecting to see nothing but, bingo. A video at it was Cassie, sitting poolside, oversized sunglasses covering half her face, holding a cocktail bigger than my patience. And behind her, I could see a crystal-clear ocean, palm trees, and the edge of a very expensive infinity pool. I knew that view. I opened another tab and typed furiously. The angle, the decor, it screamed Maldives. But not just any resort. The Pearl Waters Villas. 5-star. Ridiculously expensive. I pulled up my banking app again, cross-checking transactions. That's when I saw it. A wire transfer. Logan had converted everything to crypto, then moved it into an offshore account linked to the Pearl Waters Villas guest services. He wasn't just vacationing. He was hiding. A slow, cold smile curled at the edges of my lips. Got you, you idiot. I grabbed my phone and called Detective Harris, the cop handling my case. Logan's in the Maldives, I said, skipping all pleasantries. He stole the ring, laundered the money, and now he's living it up on stolen cash. There was a pause, then a low whistle. Well, damn. I was expecting Florida at most. You sure? Check his bank records. I rattled off the offshore account details. He transferred our money into a luxury resort fund. I could hear the clicking of a keyboard, then a short laugh. Hate to say it, but your ex is a spectacular moron. He left so much evidence, I don't even need a warrant to confirm it. Good, I said, voice sharp. Then you can work on bringing him back. Maldives is tricky, Harris admitted. But if the money was moved illegally, we can freeze it. No money means no escape. I exhaled. Do it. The next 48 hours were a storm. Harris worked with international authorities. Logan's accounts were frozen. His little rich boy runaway act? Over. And the best part? Logan had but I knew he'd figure it out soon. Because the next morning his Instagram posted another story. It was a selfie, but Logan didn't look cocky this time. He looked stressed. In the background, Cassie was yelling at him. And the caption? WTF is going on? Anyone know why my bank is frozen? This has to be a mistake. I leaned back, my grin sharp as a knife, and oh Logan, this wasn't a mistake. This was me. And I was just getting started. Logan figured it out faster than I expected. His next Instagram update? Deleted. His profile? Gone. Cassie's? Locked down. Too little, too late. I kept refreshing the news, my fingers drumming against the table. Harris had said it could take a while, that international arrests were tricky. But I knew Logan. He wasn't built for survival. He was built for bullshitting his way through life. And without money, that skill set crumbled fast. Then late that night my phone rang. I snatched it up before the second ring. "Tell me." Harris sounded smug. "Logan's in custody." I let out a breath. I hadn't realized I was holding. "Where?" "The Pearl Waters Villas." Turns out, when a luxury resort realizes their guests' money is frozen, they're not too keen on covering the tab. Security called the local authorities when Logan started screaming about financial misunderstandings. I laughed. Actually laughed. The image of Logan, standing there broke, confused, furious, was better than any revenge fantasy I could have dreamed up. "Oh, and the best part?" Harris continued, amusement lacing his words. "The Maldivian police were already flagged about his financial activities. So when he threw a tantrum at the resort's front desk, they arrested him on the spot. Please tell me someone got pictures." "Oh, better than that. It went viral." I nearly dropped my phone. "What?" "Yeah. Some tourist caught the whole thing on camera. Him ranting about corrupt banks and jealous ex-wives. It's all over Twitter. People are calling him Crypto Bro Castaway." I snorted. "That is poetic. There's already a warrant for his extradition. Won't be long now." I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, the weight in my chest finally lifting. Logan was coming home. Not to me. Not to the life he thought he could steal. But to face every single consequence he tried to outrun. And I would be right here to watch it all burn around him. The day Logan was extradited back to the US, I didn't go to the courthouse. I thought about it. Thought about standing there, watching him shuffle past in cuffs, maybe even waving sweetly as he realized just how screwed he was. But then I remembered something. I had better things to do. So instead of wasting another second of my life on him, I spent the day reclaiming it. I started by cleaning out my apartment. Every trace of Logan had to go. His sneakers by the door, in a donation box. The ugly leather chair he insisted was vintage, but smelled like a gym locker. Curbside pickup. And the worst offender? The cheap fake ring he had left behind. I held it up to the light, turning it between my fingers. The knockoff diamond caught the sun, but it would never shine like the real one. Like my father's. I swallowed hard. That part wasn't over yet. My ring was still out there, seized as evidence in Logan's case. But it was coming back. Just like me. One step at a time. I dusted off my resume, reached out to friends I hadn't seen in ages, and started actually living again. I took my mother to her favorite cafe, the one Logan always complained was too hipster, which only made me love it more. We sat outside sipping coffee, watching people pass, and for the first time in years I felt free. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Mom asked, her warm hand covering mine. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who had been there through everything, who had never abandoned me. "I think I will be," I admitted. And for the first time I actually meant it. The detective called a week later. "Emma," Harris said, a smile in his voice. "Your ring's coming home." I gripped my phone, my heart slamming against my ribs. "You found it." Logan had it stashed in a safe deposit box under Cassie's name. Guess he figured he'd eventually sell it once things cooled down. Too bad for him, bank records don't lie. "We recovered it yesterday. You can pick it up anytime." I let out a shaky laugh, pressing my palm to my chest like I could physically hold in the whirlwind of emotions flooding through me. "Thank you, Harris. Seriously." "Don't thank me," he said. "Thank Logan for being a moron." I did go to the courthouse that time. Not for Logan, for me. I didn't even have to see him in person. The case was straightforward. Grand larceny, fraud, wire fraud, and a whole laundry list of financial crimes. He took a plea deal. Less jail time in exchange for full cooperation. Translation: he was going down either way. As I walked out, ring box clutched in my hand, I finally let myself breathe. This was closure. This was justice. But most of all, this was the beginning of something new. I went straight to my mother's house. She was in the garden, wearing one of Dad's old flannels, pulling weeds like it was her personal war against nature. She looked up as I stepped onto the porch. "Emma." I sat beside her on the wooden swing, opening the box and holding out the ring. My father's ring. She sucked in a breath, her eyes shining. "Oh, sweetheart. I got it back." My voice wavered, but I didn't care. "It's home." She ran a gentle finger over the band, over the engraving my father had added so many years ago. Strength and love. And for the first time I understood exactly what he meant. Logan had tried to take everything from me. But in the end, I won. I placed the ring on my finger where it belonged, and turned to my mother with a small, determined smile. I was thinking, I said. You and me. A trip. Somewhere peaceful. Her face lit up. Like where? I grinned, leaning my head on her shoulder. Anywhere but the damn Maldives. And just like that, a new chapter began. One that belonged entirely to me.